Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Hello, hello. Welcome back. If you're wondering what this is, first of all, correct yourself because it's who. This is a who, not a what. This is Joe, my mullet wig. Now, if you're new here, I'm sorry we have to meet this way, but if you're not, this is not surprising to you, okay? As I've been saying, I've been streaming all month this month to raise money for the Trevor Project, and we had an incentive where I would have to wear the mullet wig if we hit, I think it was $250, which at this point we smashed that. So, congrats to y'all. This is for y'all. Ooh, there's a hair on my hand. Ooh. But today, in case you couldn't put it together, we are building a wedding venue. So one quick thing before we dive into the speed build, Streamlabs has been acting up, y'all know. So part of it you'll see from the stream, me sped up, and then another part, I'm just not there. So sorry for the funkiness, but let's get into the build. Okay, so the first thing I want to say about this is that this build tested me in a lot of ways. I struggled with this in so many ways that I was not expecting to struggle with it. And then the things that I thought I was going to struggle with, I did pretty well and easily. So I used a good bit of terrain manipulation in this build. That was the easy part. I thought that would be the trickiest part for me. I only knew going into this build that I wanted it to be like a castle aesthetic. I was just thinking, fairy tale, romantic, kind of the cliche vibe for a wedding venue. But we have this really pretty lot in Tartosa that kind of goes into the ocean, and it's just surrounded by ocean all around. It's just a little peninsula. And I just thought this would be the perfect place for a castle. However, I actually underestimated myself because it ended up being almost too small of a lot. Now, y'all know that I don't do speed builds on my channel very often, and I don't do speed builds generally speaking too often because I feel this immense pressure to rush and try to get through it, and that just makes my mind race even more, and then I kind of get frustrated sometimes. I can't make a decision, or I freak out and I just don't know what I'm doing. And so with this one, I was like, I got to keep the lot small. That way, I can't overextend myself because I like to go on little side tangents and get distracted and add things and add more things and add more things to those things. And then I just get carried away. And then it's like I got to ground myself back and get into what I was working on an hour ago. So with this one, I wanted it to be a small lot, so I couldn't do that. But like I said, this ended up being more difficult in some ways than that I was not expecting. So here I'm adding these like little debug curved fence pieces that we have. And I thought that went well to the bridge that I pulled from debug as well. I just really wanted there to be a water feature of some sort. And I was like, we have to be able to put a bridge in over it. And that's where I was a little bit worried with the size of the lot right off the bat. But I was like, this actually could be really pretty that you walk up this cobblestone pathway and then you have this little cobblestone bridge that you cross to get to the actual area where the wedding takes place. So the wedding is outside. It's an outdoor wedding. And so the actual castle part, which you could use as a wedding venue, but the actual castle part is like where the bride and the bridesmaids get ready, and then there's a space for the groom and groomsmen, and then there's a photo studio. We have, of course, a bathroom, a little bit of a catering kitchen. So those are pretty much what we have in this little castle area here. And you'll see later in the video, I actually extend it and make it a little bit bigger because it just was not big enough. And the floor plan, y'all, was the hardest part for me in this build. So if you were in the stream, I was desperately relying on y'all to help me come up with ideas for things for inside because it was just too small of a space. I actually thrive in really large builds. I feel like I'm the opposite of other people, where a lot of other people basically think that smaller builds are easier for them to do. It's a lot harder for me, and that's just because I'm a maximalist when I build in The Sims, and I go into it having a lot of ideas, and I know like things that I want to put in it, and I just need a lot of space for all of my ideas because there are typically too many ideas. So I actually like filling in a larger space rather than having too small of a space, because then it's like I have too many ideas, I can't fit them all, then I have to prioritize them, and then I struggle with that. It is what it is. But we're working on the outside first. I wanted to like go ahead and get the vibes for the outside because that would help more with the inside rather than the other way around with, how I was thinking. So I put the little chairs. We have the little welcome sign with, putting the Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. and Mr. for my case, or Mrs. and Mrs. for some other people's cases, or, you know, there are probably 20 million other combinations. But I put these little pergolas outside because I have been to outdoor weddings, and when you're just baking in the sun in a suit, it is not fun. It is not fun at all. You're burning up. You're wearing a long sleeve shirt with a long sleeve jacket and pants, and usually they're dark colors. Not always, but usually it's often a lot of dark colors. You're sweating. We had to put something in that provided a little bit of shade for the guests. And I have been to my fair share of weddings, and I will tell you this, that the vast majority of weddings I have been to have been outdoors. I have not experienced, I think, but like one or two indoor weddings. Now, in my lifetime, it's probably been a few more. I know I was a ring bearer for a wedding when I was a little kid, and I actually thought about that when I was working on this a little because it was a little nostalgic for me. I actually still remember Matthew and Emily. I still remember who it was too. I was like 3 years old, but I'll never forget doing that. It has always stuck with me growing up. But I myself am not married, so I had to rely on people in the stream who probably a lot of y'all aren't married either. I don't know. Y'all didn't seem like you were, but but it just like I had to rely on people who have been married. Like, what do y'all usually need? Like, I know flowers, I know the cake, I know food, a dance floor. Like, I was thinking reception, but for the getting ready part, I was like, I know I want an area where, you know, the bride and bridesmaids are. I know they have their own little area. And so I was just like trying to get an idea for what I wanted. Now, the color scheme was completely based off of the chair, which sounds ridiculous. But we have these chairs that have the flowers on the back of them, and I narrowed it down to two options. And one of them has like this baby blue and light pink color. And I was like thinking of trans flags because we've been doing a lot of pride themed builds lately. So I was like, I'm going with that because it makes me think of the trans flag. So a lot of the flowers and landscaping, I was trying to do pinks and blues a little bit, but like a lot of whites too. Like I wanted light colors. And I think a lot of that is just because when I think of like an ocean side venue or like a beach wedding or something like that, a lot of people wear white with khakis or like that's just always the vibe or lighter colors. So I wanted it to pop off a little bit and give more of this airy venue whenever you're outside. So I put this like really big archway over the bridge on both sides. I just thought that was a really pretty vibe and added a little more interest to the bridge itself. And then we have this table over behind the venue that is near the aisle. So the idea with where this table is that your guests cross the bridge and immediately to their left, they have a table where they go and sign in. And I eventually cluttered it up with the little cameras from Comfy Gamer because they look cutesy. I was thinking of like a Polaroid vibe. You know, I'm a 90s kid, so that's what I was thinking of. You take the picture, it spits it out immediately. And I've been to a wedding where they had stuff like that at the table where you just take a picture or they want you to take pictures and they put it in their own little scrapbook that they have or photo album. And so that's what I was thinking when I put that. Now, the questionable thing that you might see and be like, why did you put this on the table? We also have that little sticker printer thing. My idea was that we're pretending that they're photos, okay? So I put a couple of those little Comfy Gamer sticker printers on the table, and that's just we're pretending that they're pictures. We take our picture. These are photos that are just laying on the table there. And then we also have like a box of Kleenexes on one of the stands. And then we have a picture that I was pretending was of our parents when they got married. So I was just imagining maybe the bride had a picture of her mom and dad getting married and they featured that by the table. So you'll see a photo picture. I think it's from Basement Treasures. And that is just the idea with that. So I thought it was a really cute thing to do. And I was just trying to think of more like romantic garden for the venue itself. So obviously Fairytale garden, it's like the very cliche thing to do, but it's my first time doing a wedding venue, so I was like, go big or go home. Let's let's just do the whole thing. Let's do the whole shebang. So lots of greenery, lots of beautiful landscaping. So it's just really full with landscaping and everything. And then I had this idea of doing a sculpture garden on the right side of the bridge. So that's what I'm working on right here. I wanted to put some fountains in, and I just thought that that would be such a tranquil kind of vibe. So we make it really lush. And then one idea that I've seen someone else do before that I thought would work really well here was taking these big boulders, and they're flat on the bottom. But if you flip them over, if you have the tool mod, they make for a really nice kind of rocky platform, which looks a little funky at first, but if you layer them really well, it actually doesn't look super weird. So I liked the idea of having these be like a little bit of like a staging area for the statues to be on. So that's the idea with that, because oftentimes whenever I use terrain tools, I try to use the smoother to make the edges of like a rounded pond not look so edgy. But sometimes it's just like no matter what I do, I can't quite get it just right. So I like to line my water features oftentimes with rocks or plants or something to kind of cover that ridge or edge a little bit more. And the thing that was tricky with this one was that the castle was elevated because I had used the terrain tool at the very start to raise it, like kind of on a hill. The ridge is going to be higher up. So it looks uneven, but that's just because the terrain of where the castle is high. So I was like, I have to come up with a way to make this look a little more natural. So that's why I put a lot of rocks around it. I just thought it was really pretty because we already have the cobblestone and then we have the bridge that's made of stone. So I was like, if we have rocks all around it, that just kind of fits the vibe. One thing I'm doing right here was I wanted to make this like custom staircase. Like you could go down and just stand and look at the water. You could get pictures or something like that. So I have these little rocks that I turned upside down acting as stairs. And that was just like something that took way too long. I spent way too long trying to figure this out. I'm really sorry if y'all were watching the stream during that moment. Thank you so much. You're a trooper. I appreciate you being here. It did take me a second, but we got through it. I cut out a good bit from the video, so you didn't have to watch me just kind of do the same thing over and over again. But I just get these ideas and I have to run with them and see how they turn out. I can't not try whenever I get the idea, because then it's like, well, it could have worked, but I talked myself out of even trying, so how would I know? So I just always like to experiment when I'm streaming, and I think a lot of you, I've gotten feedback, end up learning something whenever I stream. And so it's really great to hear that you're able to take things away whenever you watch me build. That's kind of what I love about doing it. We learn from one another. I've had people come in on my content and share tips and tricks, and I love that. I think it's really great. I actually recently put out this treehouse build, and I did this really custom rock gemstone pathway using the clear tile that we get from Island Living. Someone on TikTok commented and was like, oh, I found out a way to make it easier to do. And I was just like, bless you. Where were you whenever I was laying these in all manually one at a time? And so it was really cool to like vibe with someone. By the way, if you're curious, what you do is you make a basement and then you add a platform, raise the platform all the way up to the ceiling, put your stones on, and then you place the clear tile on the ground floor. You can see through it and you can walk on it. See, the problem with mine was that it wasn't functional. It was more for vibes. That one you can walk on. So I love the Sims community. I love sharing what we do. I love having people come in and help me if I'm struggling with something. Thank y'all for being a great community. Just wanted to take some time to say that while I'm sitting here building. I'm putting my windows on, trying to figure out the vibe and thinking through the floor plan. So I start with the staircase. Like I said, I've always said it's always great to start with the staircase, figure out where your stairs are going to go, because then that's going to dictate everything else. So I figured out a rough estimation, and then I was like, nope, we got to make it bigger. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to see where I can extend. The hard thing about this was that the main part of the build, like the bigger part of the building, was diagonal. It was on a diagonal. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I did that. It made it way harder. So we were already on the edge of the lot. I couldn't extend a lot of it out like I wanted to. And I had already placed the bridge and all of the water features and landscaping, so I couldn't just shift it over a tile. So we were stuck with it, but we made it work. It ended up working out fine. And then on the second floor, I actually ended up putting the staircase outside. That way you can go up to this photo studio that I have on the third floor. By the way, there's a photo studio on the third floor. So that's where you have the really big balcony, and then there's like a little room indoors. And my idea with that was that the balcony is used for photos. So y'all know I usually like to clutter things up, make them look super lived in. I didn't do that so much in this lot for two reasons. One being that it's a venue. So venues are not super custom necessarily. So the wedding was outdoors. That's where you get more of the custom features. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on the inside being a little bit more like, what are the base necessities of what you need? And then we can spruce it up or whatever. So that was the idea with this. So on that big balcony space, I only have a couple of plants with like a bench, and that's it. So I wanted to keep it pretty open because I like to imagine that people maybe come up with their own props, or they have things that are stored inside, or they're bringing them, and then they can do their photos whenever the flowers are delivered or something like that. So I wanted to keep it a little more neutral on the inside. Now, I still put a lot of stuff on the inside. Y'all know I'm not going to leave it minimalistic or anything like that. So we still cluttered up the inside a good bit, but I tried to keep in mind that it's not thinking of a sim that's living there because I'm so used to residential. So with this bridal area that I'm working on right now, I put a couple of vanities. I used a lot of the Secret Sanctuary kit, and I thought that was a really cute vibe. And it has this like kind of romantic, elegant look to it. So it just fit the vibes a pretty good bit. And then I put a couple of these stands that you can like check yourself out on the mirror if you have your long dress on and everything. I put the fainting couch. I have been wanting to use this so much. I was like, I'm using this in this build. It's perfect. It's a beautiful color. So I kind of stuck with this more like off-white color for the most part, but I try to use a lot of white and bright colors. Like I said, even outside, I have the same idea. So I wanted to bring that into the bridal area. I mean, obviously, that's what you think of, right? Most brides wear white. You don't have to wear white. I don't judge you if you don't wear white. Wear what you want. It's your day. So I just wanted that to be more of a neutral color because, again, what I'm thinking of is I don't have particular sims in mind for the build. So let's stick with more neutral colored furniture because you want it to be, tasteful to the vast majority of people. I went back and forth with this accent wall on the fireplace. I had the Love Struck wallpaper with the flowers. I thought that was cool to bring in a little bit of color. And that's because it has some green, and the fainting couch has this really like light green sagey color on the blanket, but I couldn't do it. It just wasn't vibing with me. I don't know why. It just didn't feel right. And so I actually put this wallpaper, I think it's from Machino stuff. This one, it has like this gold color. And I put that because I had gold accents, and I just thought that that accented the gold a little bit more and what it needed. So it's a little wonky. It doesn't quite fit. It's a little funky, but it works. So I like the diamond pattern. That's the one thing that I really loved about it because we're on a diagonal in that room. So the flooring that we have down is a square wooden paneling. So it's actually looks like a row of diagonals, and then the wallpaper is also a row of vertical diamonds. I meant to say diamonds, not diagonals, but you know what I'm saying. So I just like the way that the pattern carried through on that. So I put a little bathroom downstairs. We have a shower in there just so you could get ready if you needed to at the venue. There's all the necessities you need. And now we're moving up to the groom and groomsmen's area. I was thinking, the very cliche and just kind of like the bro hangout. So it's funny how Casanova Cave came in handy for the vibe of this space. And that was just funny in the sense of they both came out at the same time. I use Secret Sanctuaries a lot for the bridal area and then Casanova Cave for the groom's area. So I just thought that was kind of funny that that came together. And then I actually paired it with Refined Living Room a pretty good bit, and that stuff matches really well. So I went with like this dark green and dark brown color in here. And then I ended up putting like the bar. I don't know. I was just trying to think like, the guys are drinking or whatever. I have some champagne for the ladies downstairs. So they are too. But I was just thinking more of like wine, whiskey, stuff like that. Get some scotch for the guys upstairs. Anyways, I don't like doing stereotypes. So it is what it is. It's just really funny. I actually enjoyed doing that for this build. But I put these mannequins in the build. So we have one for the groom and one for the bride, like with their clothes on it. I was just thinking like, yeah, you don't normally see that, but maybe it's just better to keep it wrinkle free so you don't have to worry about a garment bag or something like that. They probably brought it in, but then they want to hang it on that until they absolutely have to put it on. So that was the idea with doing that. And then I also have mannequins for the ring bearer and the flower girl. So those are the only 4 mannequins on this lot. And we ended up putting the flower girl over here next to the fireplace. So that's where her little dress is. We put a little basket of flowers there for her. And then we actually have the ring pillow with a ring upstairs for the ring bearer to grab on the way out the door. I tried to put some like very cute nods to obviously it being a wedding. But I did come across this like unfinished cake and debug, and I put that in the catering kitchen just because I thought that was a really cute vibe to have that. I actually have a cake outside for the venue, and this one I did not do. I don't want to take credit for it. It's one I got off the gallery. There are a lot of fake wedding cakes on the gallery that you all have spent a lot of time on. I don't want to take credit for it, so I did not do it. I found it on the gallery. It's absolutely beautiful. Shout out to y'all who take the time to do all of those cakes. I had like a few I was trying to, figure out which one I wanted to use because they're all so good. But I determined one, and it's a really big, I think it's a 3-tier cake, so beautiful. And now we're getting into cluttering. We love the clutter phase here. And we're putting like all sorts of makeup on here. We had the bathroom clutter kit with that messy drawer. So I was thinking that the flower girl was getting ready over here by the door. You had that little messy case there. I put one of the vanities that has the mirror on it that sits on a table. I put that over there on the coffee table as well. And I wanted a big coffee table in here because I wanted to clutter it up with a lot of little things that, as you're getting ready, you can do that. Now, I didn't put curtains on most of the windows in the build. I only put them on this big window in here, and that was because I don't want people walking across the bridge and be able to look in and see the bride. Like, you don't want to see the bride until she's coming down the aisle. So we were, imagining I could close those, like the bride could close those and not have people peek in. Now, I did put a nod to the pangender pride flag in here a little bit, and that's just because it was a light color scheme. We're doing a lot of pride themed builds lately. This one wasn't necessarily like a super pride themed build, but I had to have a nod to it somewhere. And then this whole thing with the big lamp in there was a debacle, and I promised y'all I wouldn't move it, and I did not move it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that big lamp from, I think it's Modern Luxe, that hangs over, I liked it better in the corner, but I didn't think about using it until I'd already spent way too much time trying to clutter up the little table in the corner. It was very finicky with how that was working out. So I was just like, nope, we're leaving it in the middle of the room where I had it initially. I shouldn't have checked. I knew I shouldn't have, but I did, and I ended up liking it better in the corner, but I did not move it. Y'all would be proud of me. I did not move it. I promised you I would leave it in the middle of the room, and I did. And it's still a vibe. It still looks good. It's just not where I prefer it to be. And then also one thing I didn't mention was if you're looking at the clothes rack in the bridal room, that is purple because I was imagining that the bridesmaids were wearing purple. That was just like pretend. Obviously, we don't get a lot of great swatches. We don't have dresses, a lot of dresses anyways. We get a couple that have dresses, but I was just like, we need something that all the clothes are the same color because most of the time with all the clothes that we have in the game, the swatches are like multicolored clothes. And I was like, none of this makes as much sense. So I chose one that had everything be purple because that was one of the few swatches we have where everything was the same color. So we're pretending that those are dresses and that those are for the bridesmaids. Now upstairs in the men's, it was a little bit of a different story because obviously for men's clothing, we're even more limited than we are for women's. So it was kind of more the vibe of I think it was from Horse Ranch. I put one of the thing of clothes from Horse Ranch there, and we were pretending that that is what they wore coming to the venue. And so they had already changed out. They have their suits on already, and that is what they wore here. So that is why we have Horse Ranch clothing in the groomsmen's area. Now we're cluttering up the little catering kitchen. Now I know I cluttered it up quite a bit. It's very small, and I still cluttered it up. I'm never going to not do that. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. But I wanted it to be like we're baking, right? We had the unfinished cake there, so I wanted there to be dough on the cabinet. I had the little caddy, a little caddy cornered in the kitchen space. I was just imagining we roll that in and out a little with things on it because, again, we're on a hill, and there's nothing that blocks. There are no steps on this back door. So I was just thinking it could be easier for the caterer to go up and down with the little caddy if they need to bring food in or out. And now we're just putting some like spices above the stove here and cluttering that up a good bit. And one thing that I forgot to like actually finish saying earlier was with the door by the table out behind back. That's obviously the door to the bridal party, and that was done intentionally. That way the bride can just come right out that door to get to the aisle. The aisle is right outside that door. She just has to walk down a hill. So I just thought that kind of made sense to have her have direct access to the aisle. I tried to be really intentional with the layout and what I was thinking through whenever I was doing the build. So I was trying to think through it because I myself, again, I've never been married. I don't know if I ever will be at this point, but I have been to a few weddings. So, I know some of the basic things to consider whenever you're, having a wedding venue. Now I'm just cluttering up the little foyer area. We had someone come in the chat and they really liked the mirror from Werewolves with the moon on it. And I was like, you know what? It actually kind of does have old castle-y vibes, like medieval vibes in a fun way. So I was like, why not just go ahead and put that in there? I wasn't going to do it. And then I looked at it on the wall. I was like, it actually does kind of work in here. So that is why that is in there. It was a good suggestion. Good suggestion, Tony. So now I'm just like putting some of the gallery art on the walls in here. Just wanted to fill up the space. I always have to have some type of art going up a staircase. I do not like a blank wall going up the staircase. I have to have pictures. I don't know. Every time I've seen a staircase like that, there are always pictures hanging as you go up. Now, one thing I did here in the corner was I double stacked this little coffee table. I sized it down first. And that was because it wasn't fitting with like the circumference of the circle. It was too big. So when I sized it down, I could squeeze it in between that curtain and the sofa, but then it was too low. So I stacked another one that was the same size on top of it. That way it was at least level with the couch. So you didn't have to like reach down to use it. And now I'm just like putting some nice little ivy decor outside and figure out some of the like landscaping a good bit more. And I'm filling it in because I went through and wanted to do all the flowers and layout first. So most of the stuff I added was greenery for the most part. And then a lot of the landscaping that I used was dictated by the world. So I tried to use the exact same flowers and flower bushes and things that were around us in, the world of Tartosa. So these red bushes, I wasn't planning on using. I didn't want to use red. I wanted to stick with like the pink theme a little bit more, but we do get those red bushes. We get the lavender around. We get the hydrangeas. I didn't use the purple hydrangeas as much, or I think they might be blue. I can't remember, but I used the white ones primarily for this build, and I'm just like putting this around the fountain to have a little bit of a border that was arched. I spent way too much time on this. I'm really sorry, but I filled that in with some landscaping. I add some bushes, and that's pretty much the gist of it. So let's go check out the build. So I built it on this 30 by 20 lot in Tartosa, and I added some of the traits as bracing breezes, convivial, and romantic aura. I really love the morning light, and I really love the evening light. So this is the build from the outside. You can see here, just to get a pan around view. So I really love the sculpture garden kind of vibe to it. Put some fountains. You have this nice little walkway up, and then you have your entrance to the building right there, and then we have our little water feature here. I did put like some swans. I just thought that kind of matched the vibe and energy a little bit more. And then we have our actual wedding venue over here across the bridge. So I was picturing that this could be an area where your guests could come and take pictures. I thought it was a cute little backdrop to have here with the ocean behind you. And then I had a grand piano here. Imagining we have some live music when she's coming down the aisle. And then this is the view from that. So I put the little circle, and then I have this little fountain from the romantic garden stuff that I think works really well here. And then I also like wrapped it with this piece, which I think makes it a little more grand. At first I wasn't gonna block it because I was like, ooh, let's just have it go out to the ocean. But I don't know. I feel like it makes it look a little bit more grand to have something behind the circle. So I'm glad we did that. I thought that was a good change. And then I was just thinking this is where the bride and groom could be. And this is the cake, y'all. They used the poof, which is a really good idea because it looks like it's almost like an icing texture. So this is really pretty. I love the way that looks. We have the little Love Struck one tile bar here. We have another one over here. Dance floor. And then at nighttime, you can see like the fun little lights that are all around. But let's go inside and check out the rest. So as you come in, this is the entryway. You just have a little coat rack and then just some tables with some nice decor, some candles. And then you have your bathroom right here immediately off the entryway. And then a little shower here, so you can get ready. And then this is the bridal party's room. So this is where they get ready. We have like a little bookcase to the left. And then as you come down this way, have our vanities. We have the bride's dress right here. Then some nice mirrors. And this just looks like a place to hang out. So we have the really nice TV. And I thought it was pretty with the waves and the ocean. And this is what this part looks like. I just think it's very relaxing, kind of calm energy. And this is what I meant by the diamond pattern with the flooring. So we have this, and since it's diagonal, it just kind of works really well and plays on one another. And then this is what I was talking about where the flower girl was getting ready. And then we have our little kitchen right here. I thought the aprons were a nice little touch. Some cookies that were getting cut over here, some fresh ingredients. We have the sink, fridge, just a place where you can do a little bit of cooking. And then just to touch on it a little bit more, this is what I was talking about. We have the cameras, but then these are like the stickers, but we're pretending that these are pictures of people. So that's the idea. We have a little bit of candy too, but this is the picture. So we're pretending like it's a frame that has a back on it. So I tilted it a little bit, But I just thought that was cute, like if you had a picture of your parents on their wedding day to feature that. And then just to like show this off a little bit more, so I panned over it, but this is what we're looking like over here. And then as you come up the stairs, this is where the groomsmen hang out before the wedding. So I have some bars, I have a little fridge over here. That's the groom's little get up, and then that's our little ring bearers get up. There's the pillow with the ring there, and then the flower girl's little basket is right here with her dress. And then upstairs we have the studio. So this is just where you could do some indoor pictures. Want something really nice, you never know, it could be raining, unfortunately. But this is the big balcony I was talking about, so you could even just have the doors open and you could do some pictures outside on this balcony area. I thought that was really pretty. And then this is what I was talking about earlier, where I put the staircase outside to get up, and I think it works really well. It's right off the groomsmen's area over here. And then one thing that I've been seeing a lot the past couple of years is that there's an artist that's hired at a wedding venue, and they like paint the bride and groom coming down the aisle, or they have a scene that they're capturing. I've seen at one wedding where it's just like the landscaping with the arch where they got married. So you just never know, but I thought this was really pretty to put this here because, you know, they would have a top-down view of the scene. So this is the lot at nighttime, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. I would love to see something like this in real life, but really pretty gardens. I like the warm undertones that you get from the lighting. So a little fountain feature, a little water area over here. Beautiful. I have little candles in here too that helps. And then we have a little area over here, which probably could have a little bit more lighting, but I think it is like a nice ambiance. And then I just have like the little candle sconces from Riviera Retreat for the outside around the doors. So I think it's a really pretty little vibe. So I have this on the gallery as Villa dell'Amore. Sorry if the pronunciation is bad on that. I'm a little rusty on my Italian. It's been a while. Wow, that was 14 years ago. Put pictures in the Discord. If your Sims get married here, I would love to see it. The link is down below if you want to join. And then if you would like to donate to the Trevor Project, I have that link below as well. And you can check out my last speed build over here. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay? Bye. Y'all, I'm embarrassed to say, but I spent several hours working on this because for some reason lots aren't loading in Tartosa, and it seems to be a common issue. Go figure with The Sims. Please give this a like.